This is WFYI News Now. It's October 22nd, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, nonstop flights between Indianapolis and Dublin, Ireland are on the way. An expert offers tips to avoid deer collisions while driving. And is it too late to address climate change?
Can we do that? Can we make a decision that we will never see personally, or perhaps our children and grandchildren will never see personally?
Those stories coming up. But first, Thursday is the last day Hoosiers who want to vote by mail this election can apply for a mail-in ballot. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports on who's eligible and how to apply.
Anyone age 65 or older can vote by mail in Indiana. You're eligible if you're not able to vote in person all 12 hours the polls are open on Election Day, or if you're prevented from voting due to transportation issues. People with disabilities, members of the military, public safety officers, and serious sex offenders can also get mail-in ballots. You can apply in person at your local election administrator's office by 5 p.m. local time on Thursday, October 4th. But you have until midnight if you apply online at indianavoters.com. When applying, you'll need to provide a driver's license or state ID number, the last 4 digits of your social security number, or a unique voter ID number tied to your registration record. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Direct flights to Europe are returning to Indianapolis. WFYI's Martin Schaus reports the Indianapolis Airport Authority announced starting next May, it will offer nonstop service between Indianapolis and Dublin, Ireland.
Aer Lingus, an Irish airline, will handle the flights. This will be Indianapolis International Airport's first nonstop flight to Europe since service to Paris was shuttered in 2020 during the pandemic. Mario Rodriguez, the executive director of the airport, says this flight is an even bigger deal because of the economic ties between Indiana and Ireland.
The economics with Dublin dwarf the economics with Paris.
Rodriguez said that Indiana imports over $20 billion in goods from Ireland each year. Indianapolis-based pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly also recently invested $1.8 billion into 2 facilities in Ireland. The first flight will be on May 3rd, 2025, and flights will leave Indianapolis for Dublin 4 times per week after that. I'm Martin Schaus.
Indiana drivers hit deer most often from now to December, but careful driving can prevent collisions. AAA Hoosier Motor Club spokesperson Christina Griffiths tells drivers not to swerve or avoid deer.
The most important thing is don't swerve and don't panic, because if you end up swerving, you could hit another car, you could hit a tree, you could hit a guardrail, and then you could end up hurting yourself or somebody else and having a lot more damage to your car.
Griffiths says insurance companies won't cover damages if a driver swerves. She says to use high beams to see better at dawn and dusk when deer are most active. If a collision happens, pull to the roadside, turn on hazard lights, then call the police.
You are required to report any crash involving a deer that involves over $1,000 worth of damage to your car. And that's partially for insurance. And then also if there's an injury, you're required to call and report it too.
Griffith says police can help with insurance claims and taking pictures of damage. Drivers should never touch deer for safety reasons and should let animal control handle it. And for our final story today, is it too late to address climate change? A listener wanted to know. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports it's a question that's spurred a lot of scientific debate.
Indiana state climatologist Beth Hall believes the Earth will return to the natural changes in climate we saw before the industrial age. But when will that be? No one knows. If we stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow, Hall says it could still take decades or maybe 100 years for those emissions to leave Earth's atmosphere. Regardless, Hall says we need to address climate change right now in order for future generations to thrive.
Can we do that? Can we make a decision that we will never see personally, or perhaps our children and grandchildren will never see personally?
And scientists say every degree of warming we can avoid means a brighter future, with the potential to save millions of lives and keep many species of plants and animals from going extinct. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
Climate change can make flooding, extreme heat, tick disease, and reduced crop yields worse in Indiana. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.